There's no doubt that everyone has gleaned by now that all the stories that are told are relative to the possibility of our answering the questions that have been posed over the time that we've shared together. What is it that's present when stillness and movement meet? What is it that lies beyond the state of Satchitananda? What's your relationship with life now? And recently, the question, what is it that's represented by the talismans and icons of life? So there's a reminder of a story. A story about a very old man of Jewish faith. He had never been very rich, but he had lived by the tenets of his faith, attending the synagogue, keeping the Sabbath day. But along with that, he was known for his giving of what it was that he had. He shared all that he earned with others. And now he was penurious, penniless, living on the largesse of townspeople, getting a loaf of bread at the end of the day from the baker, a little overripe fruit from time to time. But times were very tough, and there were days when this man called Eli was without any means of sustenance. But one night, when he was sitting at his table with his candle lit, saying his evening prayers, there was a knock at the door. And when he opened the door, there, standing in front of him, was a man wearing a garb that was not known in those parts. And when he spoke, it was with an accent that was not known to Eli. But this old man with a long white beard, draping down to his waistline, said, "I'm a traveler, and it's now dark, and I'm lost, and I wonder if you would be able to give me hospitality for the night." And Eli said, "Of course, come in, share with me what I have, meager though it be." So the old man entered, and they sat in a very affable silence for some time, and then shared a conversation that went on into the late part of the night. And then they laid down to rest. Now Eli could not help but wonder who this strange being was, and he went to sleep pondering on what and who he was, because he seemed otherworldly, leaning on his staff, his long white beard, his piercing eyes, his gentle way of speech, his wisdom that seemed to flow in the conversation that they had. But Eli rested for the night, and when he woke up, the old man was gone. But there, left behind him, was his staff. Now, Eli knew that this was significant. He didn't know how, but that very day, when he went out to the marketplace, as was his custom, he took the staff with him, leaning on it gratefully. But then, as he approached the town and was walking along its cobblestone streets, the tip of the staff got stuck in between the stones, and as he bent down to remove it, there, between the stones, in the crack, there was a silver coin. Eli gratefully took the silver coin, and the first thing he did was to buy sweetmeats for all who helped him in the days before. Times were hard, and sometimes it was at a loss to themselves that the townspeople gave of what they had. Eli was very grateful. Some days later, he was out again in the streets of the town, leaning on the staff, when suddenly a group of marauding robbers came riding into town to loot and plunder from the already poor populace. Somehow, Eli, when he raised his staff, had a superhuman strength and was able to beat off these robbers single-handedly. The townspeople were grateful for what it was that Eli had done, of course being greatly surprised at the strength of this very old man and his ability to wield this staff so effectively that it put a band of marauders on the retreat out of town. The townspeople were so grateful, and knowing that Eli had had a dream that he could find his way to the Holy Land before he died. The Holy Land was very far distant from the place in which Eli lived, but in gratitude, the townspeople gathered the funds to allow Eli to fulfill his dream to travel to the Holy Land before he died. So Eli set out, taking his staff with him. He boarded a wagon that would take him to the seaside, where he would catch a ship that would take him across the sea. But as they were traveling, they had not gone very far when the wheel of the wagon fell off and had to be repaired. Now Eli, as he watched the wagon ear going about his task of reparation, looked around him, and not far away there was a small hill. So Eli decided that he would climb to the top of this hill. When he did, as he neared the peak, there in front of him was a great tree, very verdant, filled with green leaves and blossoms. But as he neared the tree, when he looked up, there was a broken branch, a wound on that tree, where it seemed that a limb had been severed. There were no leaves, nor blossoms on that part that was attached to the trunk. But as Eli looked, he looked down at his staff, and he noticed the knobbles on his staff were like the knobbles on the branch of the tree. And he lifted up his staff, and immediately it attached itself to the severed limb of the tree, and before his very eyes leaves broke forth and blossoms appeared on the staff, the branch that had reattached itself to this great tree. Eli descended the hill, took his place on the wagon, and after a time arrived at his destination. As he was standing in prayer before the Wailing Wall, that great edifice where the prayers, supplications, importunings are placed and sent to the heavens, a leaf fell at Eli's feet. He picked it up, and he knew that this leaf was from the tree that he had left, that had its renewed life because of the staff, the branch that had been returned to its source. Eli lived much, much longer than the due time of most men. The leaf stayed with him, ever fresh, ever new, ever fragrant, knowing that it came from this tree. Recognizing, perhaps, equating, perhaps, that this staff represents what we've discovered may be the talisman, the icon, the representative of what lies within ourselves. What could be the significance, the meaning of placing that staff, that talisman, that icon, reattaching it to that representation of life? We all know the significance of the tree of life. What does it mean? What could it mean when this talisman, this icon, this staff is reattached to life, the tree that signifies life. What could it mean? It brings us back to the other questions that have been asked. What's your relationship with life now? Where are we when the three levels of life, existence, mind have come together and we rest? What is it that's present when stillness and movement meet?